Hello, guys. Listen, the program you're about to see is a program that I'm running on both of my stations, but it's not exactly the same program because this particular one right here is including uh, things that are only for this particular channel, exclusive to this channel, and so they're not exactly the same film, but similar. Excerpt clips from both films. But listen, the film you're about to see is very important. Why it's important is the Federal Reserve of the United States is quite literally preparing for the cryptocurrency revolution. They know it's coming. They're preparing for it. I didn't know. One of my viewers sent me some information that I didn't know about. I didn't know about this particular task force that the Fed's putting together to try to deal with cryptocurrency. It's obvious they didn't come right out and say, hey, you know what, we formed this task force to deal with cryptocurrency in general. But cryptocurrency is bigger, brighter, bolder, and better than what they have for transferring money, for being the internet of value, the internet of money. They don't want to be overtaken. They don't want to have their system that they've established that has enriched these bankers for thousands of years. They don't want to have it go down in flames. So they're going to fight back. And how they're going to fight back is they're going to try to make the dollar just as exchangeable across the internet as cryptocurrency. There's only one problem with this. For it to function as good as cryptocurrency, they have to use the same or similar technologies. In other words, i.e., blockchain technology, to give them that advancement. Now, I see a huge problem with this. The problem that I see with this is if they use blockchain technology to enhance their own fiat-based system, what they're going to do is they will remove their fiat-based system from its own small. Basically, they're going to remove it from its ecosystem. Is the best way I can put it, and move it into the ecosystem of the cryptocurrencies. So it's going to go head to head with the other cryptocurrencies. My way of thinking is they don't have any other choice except to do this if they want to compete on level ground with the cryptocurrency. So without further ado, let's go into this program and let's take a look at what information that I have available. Thank you guys, and we'll catch you right up. Thank you guys for tuning in. This program that I'm going to run right now is possibly one of the more important programs that I've run on my channel since my channel's beginning. I want to thank one of my viewers in particularly for cluing me into this information on something that I didn't know was going on, that I've found it now. And I don't think that the viewer that sent me this information really, perhaps he knew how important it was, but when I saw it, I was like, wow, because to me, this is an acknowledgement by the Federal Reserve that they are being overtaken by new technology that is going to revolutionize the way all transactions in the world takes place. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to hold the status quo, and they are trying to keep things basically working the way they are because they have had a monopoly on banking. Forever, they've had this monopoly, thousands of years. The Federal Reserve never forget, is a bank. It's called the central bank. It's the bank of all banks. Now, here's the thing. They are a privately owned institution. They answer to no one, and they are actually owned by the big banks. They're about as Federal as Federal Express. They know they're behind the curve. First thing we're going to do is we are going to get into the meat of this program. So let's get the program started, okay? And the first thing we're going to look at is payments. Now, the present day system we have right now runs on a system of payments that is made. I drew this in Paint to help you guys to understand how this actually works. And what this is this is how money is transferred in the modern day and age. I drew this myself using Paint, and I wanted to show you guys how money is moved from one place to another. You know, it takes ages, honestly, to move money. Some banking within the banking system take like 1 day. Those are the quicker ones. Some of them take like up to a week to move your money. And the reason why is they're working with an old system that works on PIN numbers. Now you see this picture of a debit card in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. This represents you. You and your debit card or your credit card. And you are actually part of this system. Every time you use your debit or your credit, you are becoming part of this third-party transaction system that is in place right now. This system is already up and running, and most of the world uses it. Most of the world does not use cryptocurrencies for these transactions yet. The system's already in place, and how this system works is you have an issuing bank. This is the little bank thing I have there in the left-hand corner, left lower corner. It's the issuing bank. The issuing bank is the bank that you have your money at. It has to move that money to the acquiring bank. Now, they are able to send money digitally now. The dollar has been digitalized, but where it comes into problems is in verification. This is why it takes days. And even in this modern world, believe it or not, behind the scenes, the banks still make phone calls to each other to make sure and actually verify that the system is actually functioning properly. It actually uses voice communication still, this system, in order for it to function. So the merchants all have to use it, the issuing banks, the acquiring banks, the debit or credit. It all requires a third party to follow each transaction. So each transaction actually has to be acknowledged with a human third party and verified. Each single transaction has to be acknowledged. So what we're dealing with this kind of a system is we're dealing with something that looks something like this. Okay, let's focus the camera in, and what we're looking at, this is the way our banking system works. I'm likening it to this old dilapidated house. That's what our banking system and the movement of money in our modern system is like. It's old and it's antiquated and it needs to be refreshed. They acknowledge that it is crumbling. It's a crumbling infrastructure. It doesn't work good. It works on, well, you got 4 digits on your credit card that make your credit card function. How hard is it to break that code? I mean, it's really relatively simple for crooks to actually come in and actually steal your money in the modern system, and it happens all the time. You've probably worried about that before when you've been laying in bed at night. You've probably thought to yourself, hey, you know what? I've got like $10,000 on this credit card, 15 on that credit card. What if a crook comes in and steals my money? And what if the bank doesn't acknowledge that or something goes wrong and I'm left accountable for that money and stuff, you know, because there's tons of crooks out there constantly trying to steal from these credit cards, and they're successful quite often, and that's because this system is dilapidated. It's basically, it's in the condition of that house that you see in the picture. But what do we have with the new system of our oh, just wait a second, let's try this one. Okay, with our new system of our new bright, shiny Bitcoin and all of these other cryptocurrencies, what are they like? Well, they're modernized. They're like this house here. They're all sparkly and shiny and new, and they can send money, and it's always verified instantaneously. It's just far new, far better, far the way you want to go. It's like this house here. Which house would you rather live in? Would you rather live in this house here with the swimming pool, and it's all luxury, and it's all brand new and bright and shiny, or would you rather live in the old dilapidated house? So the Fed has basically acknowledged this, that they're way behind the times, and they see this as the competition. The competition is this new system of money transfer that the computer actually verifies. Instantaneously, the computer verifies the transaction. And so you don't have to wait days. You can send money as fast as you can send an email. And this is the new system of sending money, the new internet of money, that is the new invention that is the cryptocurrencies. But there's a problem with these new cryptocurrencies. They're like this house here. Do you see anybody in this picture? It's vacant. There's nobody living in this luxury mansion that is all ready for everyone. I mean, it's perfect. It's perfect. And this is the way the cryptocurrencies are. They're perfect, but there's nobody living in them. Now, picture that old house we had a second ago. This old dilapidated house right here, right? Picture that this old dilapidated house is like the monetary system we have in place right now. And even though it's dilapidated, even though it's falling down, even though it's no good for nothing, still, this is where all the people are living. This is where all of the money is right now being transferred in this old system. Everybody's using the old system, and they're not using the new yet. But the new looks so inviting. It looks so ready to be used, that this is where everything is pointing toward it going. And this is why so much money has been coming into this space, the cryptocurrency space, is because people are seeing the potential of this new monetary system. But believe me, the Federal Reserve sees this potential as well. So now let's move back here just for a second. Let's go back and let's talk about the Federal Reserve for a minute. They see this as well. And what do we have here? We have a site that leads right back to the Federal Reserve right here, and it's called Fed. That's because Federal Reserve, Federal Payments Improved.org. Now you see where I'm reading that? I'm reading that up in this upper corner up here, the upper right-hand corner. It says Fed Payments Improvement.org. They want to improve the existing financial structure. This is what they want to do, and they've assembled a faster payments task force, the Fed has. And this is coming from the Fed, coming directly from the Federal Reserve. They have met, and they've brought together a whole assessment team, something like 300 people. Here it shows them sitting in meetings here. It's a task force, and they're trying to meet these goals and implement these things before the year 2020, if you can believe that. I mean, that's not very far away. It's just a matter of months away. They want to have this in place, this new ways of faster payments, you know. And here's the recommendations. Recommendation number 1, establish a faster, this is recommendation number 1, establish a faster payment governance framework. Right? And here it shows by the year 2020, they want to have this in place, this faster payments governance framework. So basically what they want to do is they want to try to remodel their old house. It's all fallen to pieces. And this is an act of absolute desperation. Now you have to ask yourself, sit back for a minute and think. This whole task force that they've put together, everything that they're trying to do to remodel and revamp their old house is all because they're feeling pushed by this new system of money that's coming in to their space. It's invading them. It's pushing at them, and they are responding to it. And this is how they're responding to it. They're responding to it. They even have infrastructure recommendations. It says the task force recommends enabling needed. Okay, let's highlight it here. Needed infrastructure to support faster payments. They want to enhance the Federal Reserve settlement mechanisms in order to support the faster payment system, and so on. They have an awful lot of things here. I'm not going to go through it all because it's just so much to it, but this is coming directly from the Federal Reserve, this information we have here. Now, if I go to YouTube, we can see there's all kinds of actual programs that they have on here, but what they're doing. This one here is at the top of the screen. Let's focus in on it a little bit. Let's take a look at this one right here. This is a 30-minute program right here on the United States' path toward faster payments. The Faster Payments Task Force. On July 21st, 2017, leaders from the Faster Payments Task Force shared key findings from the task force final report. You can tune into that right on YouTube. The next one is these FinTech podcasts about the Faster Payments Task Force reports. What's happening with the Faster Payments Task Force? And all of this is not exactly new. It's just that I didn't know about it. I've just found out about it. And it makes a lot of sense to me that the Federal Reserve is anticipating ahead the faster payment system that's in place already with cryptocurrencies, and they're responding to it. See, the Federal Reserve here on this one, it says Federal Reserve on why being late to faster payments is an advantage. They're trying to actually turn a negative into an advantage on their own system. But all of this aside, right, what's it really amount to is that they feel like they're behind the times. They know they're behind the times. Cryptocurrency is ahead of them already. Now, what does this all actually mean? And why is this so important? And why am I doing this show right now? Okay, I'm going to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. Why it's so important. Why it's so important is this is new technology. It eliminates third-party transactions. This is what slows everything down, is third parties having to verify everything. Basically, really what this new system, what cryptocurrencies is instead of having a person verify every transaction, now we have computers that are able to verify everything, every transaction using the power of cryptography. This is what the new invention is. And what the Federal Reserve is trying to do right now is they're trying to find a halfway point where they can speed up their old antiquated system, right, to match this new system of computer verification using cryptography. But there's a problem for them, and I can tell you what the problem is right now. The problem is there is no halfway point. You either take the leap and you use cryptography to verify transactions, in other words, blockchain, okay? You take the leap and you use blockchain, or you stay back in the old system that's antiquated because you're not using the new technology. Right? There is no halfway point. They're trying to find a halfway point in which they can compete. Speed up their old system somehow. Remodel their old house. But you ever saw the movie The Money Pit, where Tom Hanks tries to remodel an old house and he finds out that it's an almost impossible task? Well, that's what this is like. This is like the money pit. Their old system is antiquated. It's come from the days when they had a gold standard. Bitcoin is the new gold standard. This is where this is going. Ultimately, in the end, they're going to be left with one of two choices. Either to take the step and compete on a one-to-one basis with the cryptocurrencies by taking the dollar and turning it into a cryptographic currency. That would be to take the leap and actually fight Bitcoin on a one-to-one basis. In other words, they would turn the dollar into a cryptographic currency, and then they would have the ability to be able to have instantaneous transactions with computer verification using cryptography. They can do that, or they can try to remodel their old system, revamp it somehow, but it'll never be able to compete because it's not using cryptography. It's not using the new wonderful invention. Okay, so there's where we stand right now. My sense in all of this is that they're going to try to compete, but ultimately, as the Bitcoin and as the cryptocurrency network grows, they're going to feel more and more pressure, and ultimately, in the end, they will move the dollar over in one fell swoop, move the dollar over to being a cryptographic currency. In other words, the dollar will become crypto in one form or another. Now, what type of blockchain they use, that's another a question for another day, right? What type of blockchain they use. But this points toward that they're moving in that direction, albeit slowly, but they're trying. They're pushing as hard as they can. They want to have all this implemented by the year 2020. And the reason why they're being pushed that hard is they've done studies, and they can see that by the year 2020, Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies are going to offer some real solid head-to-head competition to the system that they have in place right now, which is this antiquated, wholly antiquated system, likening it to this old dilapidated house again. This antiquated system that they have in place right now. And so we have people out there who say, well, they say the dollar is the world reserve currency and it's never going to be taken down. Right? And this can never actually happen, what I'm talking about right now. And I want to point to something, and this is the final part of this program that I'm producing right now. Something that a lot of people haven't thought of that are negative cryptocurrency. They believe that Bitcoin and all of the other cryptocurrencies can never make it because they'll never be an actual store of value. Like the dollar. They think that that's impossible. Well, the dollar is the dollar by decree. All of these fiat currencies are fiat by decree. And what makes them that way? Well, what makes the dollar is the infrastructure that's built behind it, which is America. That's the infrastructure. When you stick your head out the window and you look across the American landscape and you see all of that infrastructure, that is what is giving the fiat decree to the dollar and is underpinning the dollar, is all of that infrastructure that's in place. Well, you know, when Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency started, they didn't have much infrastructure. But even though Bitcoin fell back recently from $20,000, let's put the picture of Bitcoin up, what Bitcoin looks like. Just a second. Okay, there's what Bitcoin looks like. This is the house that Bitcoin's in. It's not the dilapidated house, it's the modern house. Well, here's the thing. Even though Bitcoin, you know, started at 20,000 when it was $20,000, the infrastructure behind Bitcoin was being built, and it reached a point where Bitcoin was valued at $20,000. Well, you know what? That infrastructure behind all the cryptocurrencies is actually growing larger since Bitcoin was 20,000. And it's that infrastructure that gives Bitcoin value. The fact that that infrastructure is built, it's growing, and it's giving Bitcoin support, just like a country. The cryptocurrencies, that infrastructure that they're building in many different countries. Right now, while we speak, the infrastructure is building outwards. That infrastructure almost represents like a government or a country of its own, even though that country doesn't really exist. There is no Bitcoin-topia country or whatever. There's no country named after Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's building infrastructure in every different country on earth. And when I say Bitcoin, I mean the cryptocurrencies in general. And what they're acting like a giant corporation. Now, corporations have value because of the infrastructure behind them. Like take IBM, for instance, or say a big corporation like 3M or Microsoft or any of these big corporations. They're almost like a country. And they build their value behind the corporation because of the infrastructure that they have in place. Well, Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies are building infrastructure at an amazing rate behind the scenes. And this is where it's going to give them the solid foundation. This foundation, ultimately, because the invention of the cryptocurrencies is so much superior to the system that's in place right now, where you have to have third-party verification. Ultimately, this is going to be the big winner. And what you see here with these task forces that are being developed by the Fed is you see a response. They don't want to lose the system and the infrastructure that they have in place right now. And they feel very threatened by this new, bright, shiny infrastructure that's being built, and also this new, bright, shiny technology that enables them to do magical things, the cryptocurrencies, that they can't do in the present system that they have in place. They envy that. They're trying to emulate it, but they're not going to be able to unless they make the step over and they take that giant leap and turn the dollar into a cryptocurrency. Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. The dollar is going to become a cryptocurrency. Now, you might say to yourself, hey, you know what? The dollar as a cryptocurrency will destroy Bitcoin. This is what the first thing that an awful lot of people are going to think immediately as soon as the dollar is made into a cryptocurrency. And we bring it up to this modern age where it can be transferred instantaneously and it can do anything that Bitcoin can do. The first reaction, the gut reaction of most people out there is to think, hey, it's going to trounce Bitcoin. It's going to beat Bitcoin hollow. You know, because it'll have the backing, full backing and full faith of the United States government behind it, et cetera, you know, and people will trust it, people will use it. And yes, you're probably right. People will use it. People will use it extensively. But it's not going to trounce Bitcoin. What's going to happen is when the dollar is transferred over and it becomes a cryptocurrency, and we're looking at this probably happening before the year 2020 because they're going to feel pressured to do it. They're going to have to do it to combat the cryptocurrencies. And this is the last ditch effort that they have to actually fight against the cryptocurrencies. This is the last thing they have in their tool bag. When they do that, you're going to find that the dollar is right now, the dollar is moving in a different system, a different ecosystem than the cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are over here. They're in their own system. That's this beautiful mansion. The dollar, it's in this system here. So they're running on two different rail tracks. They're like two trains, each running on separate tracks. The dollar's over here on this track, and you got the cryptocurrencies over here on this track. What they're going to do is they're going to move that old dilapidated dollar into the new cryptographic system. and they're basically going to run it on the same track. At that point, the dollar will go head-to-head against the other cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin, right? Now, here's where the problem comes in all this. Even though the dollar has tremendous infrastructure built behind it, far more infrastructure than the cryptocurrencies have. Now, the cryptocurrencies are working on their infrastructure. They're building it out fast, but the dollar has more infrastructure, although that infrastructure is dilapidated like this old house. Still, what'll happen is when you put them both on the same track, by turning the dollar into a cryptographic currency, you've put it on the same track, it's going to go on the exchanges with Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies. And in order for it to compete, at that point, all of its features, the dollar's features, are going to be scrutinized. The first thing, the cryptographic players in the cryptographic industry, as soon as the dollar goes on their exchanges, the first thing that they're going to take note of is how many monetary units are going to be created, how many dollars are going to be created cryptographically. Well, the new cryptographic dollar is going to have to either match the old cryptographic dollar, dollar for dollar, or possibly they'll tokenize it and make it so that one token represents an X amount of dollars. Well, here's the problem for them. They can't make one token probably go higher than probably $1,000. One tokenized dollar. And the reason for this is people are going to have to buy into the new system, to the new cryptographic system. So in other words, you've got your bank account right now, you've got the old dollars in your bank account. Now you're going to have to move over to the new cryptographic dollar. So you're going to have to buy those new cryptographic dollars from the bank. And in fact, they might even force them on you. They might say, okay, you've got a limited amount of time to move your old dollars out into the new cryptographic dollar, or it might even be an automatic thing where the bank actually changes your dollars you have now into the new cryptographic tokens. They can't move more than, say, $1,000 US now for one cryptographic token. They can't go too much higher than that, or it just won't work, because people would have to have at least $1,000 in the bank to buy just one cryptographic token. If they made it $100,000 for one cryptographic token, most people could not afford to buy even one. You know, and it just wouldn't work properly. So they'd have to keep it down to around $1,000 per one cryptographic token. Even doing that, there would still be billions of cryptographic tokens that they would have to produce. So you'd have these billions of cryptographic tokens. So when it goes head-to-head against the other cryptocurrencies, the first question that people are going to ask is, how many monetary units, how many cryptocurrencies are they creating? Like if you take a look at a coin like, say, Dogecoin, right? Or, say, Digibyte, you know, or coins like that. They're in the billions, right? So each coin's value is not equal to, say, one Bitcoin, because a Bitcoin, they only have, like, right now, out there right now, maybe a dozen billion or 14 billion, something like that. I know they say there's like 16 billion, but let's see the money. Show me the money. If you were to take all the Bitcoins and lump them all together, you probably wouldn't even be able to make 10 million, you know, Bitcoins. There's probably less than 10 million out there actually floating around. And so when you compare 10 million to a coin where they have to produce like probably a minimum of 100 billion, which is what they'd have to do with the US dollar. They'd probably have to make at least 100 billion tokens to cover the trillions of dollars that's out there. Well, you're going to be looking at a token that's going to have a very high, it probably exceed Bitcoin's market cap. Probably put it in the position of being the number one in the market cap. But at the second part of it is those tokens, because there's so many of them, their price would drop off substantially, their value, and it would probably not be $1 each. And in relation to Bitcoin, their price would be slaughtered, absolutely slaughtered. And a head-to-head against Bitcoin, their price is going to be slaughtered. Bitcoin's going to be going up, and they're going to be going down massively in value if they go head-to-head against the other cryptocurrencies. And this is the problem, because if they don't do this, if the Federal Reserve holds back and stays with this dilapidated house that doesn't function good and does not turn their new currency, the dollar. If they do not turn the dollar into a cryptographic currency and go with the new way of doing things, if they stay with this old way of doing things, they're very slowly going to fall behind until the end. Nobody's going to want to use it anymore. Everybody's going to be wanting to use the new cryptographic currencies, because this is the new wave of the future, being able to send money and make micropayments across the internet. And if they do make that giant leap into turning the dollar into a cryptographic currency, so that you can do everything the cryptographic currencies can do, they're going to have to go head-to-head with the other cryptographic currencies. And their value of what they have is going to drop tremendously on the open exchanges. So here's where we have the problem, and here's where we're at right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this little talk about the conundrum and the problem that the Fed is having with cryptocurrencies that they probably do not want to admit to. But when I look at things like this, this site right here, with this new task force that they've developed, what I see absolutely is they have a huge problem on their hands, and there's probably no place for them to go, no relief, other than to have their cryptographic currencies to change over to a cryptographic currency and lose tremendous value on the dollar, which the dollar is going to do anyway. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place, is the way I see it. And listen, I'm going to try to read every comment that's left on this particular article. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next show. Bye-bye, guys.